Well, Friday here on Birds 365 with Mac and Mac. Oh, it's nice to see that smiling face. Yeah, he's living down in Florida, but he's going to be a Philly guy for the rest of his life. Don't kid yourself. Rob Maaddi joins us here on Birds 365. How you been, Maaddi, man?
What's up, guys? I just came back from Philly, actually. I was there for a couple of days, went out and did a nice event with Brandon Graham from the Eagles. Awesome dude. We went to a couple of high schools and spoke to some students, gave them some encouragement and inspiration. So it was a long, I guess it was Wednesday. I lost track of days. It was a long Wednesday, but here I am back where I in Florida and under the sun. But hey, I brought some heat with me up north, so that was pretty
cool. You brought us some nice weather, so we appreciate that. And yeah, I saw that, Rob. I saw you were out with Brandon. Parkersburg Point, I guess. Where's that?
It's up in it's at Glen, PA. I can't even pronounce it. Doctorera High School, Coatesville High School. You're probably more familiar with Coatesville.
No, Coatesville.
Beautiful campuses and nice ride out. Anytime you drive out there and you're seeing people chopping down trees and you got horses and you got the buggies, you know you're out in the wilderness somewhere.
Yeah, nice to get serene.
I'm a New York City kid. I used to play in the CHSAA in New York. There was no such thing as a high school campus. It was a building sandwiched between other buildings next to it. There was no campus involved in high schools when I was growing up.
I hear you.
Glad to see you got out with BG. Great stuff. All right, I want to ask you a question that has nothing to do with the draft. We surely want to ask about the draft, but you're Mr. NFL. Is the team in our nation's capital sold yet? Because there are conflicting reports that, yes, Joshua Harris and his group have acquired the former Redkin, then the football team, then the Commanders from Dan Snyder. He's on his way out the door. And there are other reports that the deal is not a done deal yet. What are your sources telling you? It's a 99.9% Snyder's out, but is this thing going to get done? Is it actually done? And are the reports that it's not done yet inaccurate?
Great question, Jody. So our terminology in my story and my colleague out in Washington, Stephen Wino, is agreed in principle. So there's an agreement in place, right? But when you have a $6 billion transaction, it's not a handshake deal. Any of these things aren't. You got to get the language down. You got to get the contracts. You got to get all the details down. So it has not yet been signed and formally presented to the NFL. So while there is an agreement in principle and they're working towards getting the ink on the paper and presenting it to the NFL before it goes through, and then there's a lengthy process that the league goes through to approve these deals. It's not 100% done. Could something happen? Could they hit a snag? Could someone come in and say, "Hey, yo, wait up, Dan. I got $7.5 billion." Not going to happen, but could that happen theoretically when it's just an agreement without a written contract? That could, but it's moving toward what appears to be a locked in, done deal with the Joshua Harris group, giving him, what's he going to have, teams in 3 sports now? He's got
four. He's got a Premier League team too.
Oh, we count. I like that, John. You got to count the soccer. So you count that, or the American football, or whatever you want to call that.
Crystal FC, Josh.
Okay.
Right. So New Jersey Devils, Philadelphia.
I wonder if he's got money for a loan, man. I wouldn't mind a few bucks.
He's got a couple of bucks. Now, here's a question you should know the answer to. Doesn't he own a small piece of the Steelers? I would guess he'd have to digest that if he's getting a bigger piece of the Washington football team. Need to sell
David,
that off,
right? David Tepper used to own part of the Steelers as well. Had to divest when he bought the Carolina Panthers. It was interesting. You bring up Daniel Snyder. He could be he could agree to do anything and change his mind. If Jeff Bezos comes in tomorrow, Rob, changes his mind and says, "I'll give you $6.5 billion," he'll go, "Hey, Josh Harris, nice knowing you."
All along we never got any kind of concrete evidence that Bezos is really interested in this team. And there's some NDAs that are involved. Like, if you're going to make a bid on a team, you got to have all the available information. And then, of course, Bezos, this gets a little bit complicated with the Washington Post, with getting all that information on the team, the books, the history, and all that stuff. So I wonder how much any of that signing NDAs had to do with a lack of interest on his
That's
part.
a good point, because Daniel Snyder doesn't want the Washington Post getting information on him.
Not any more than they already got. So.
Yeah. Yeah, our buddy Will Hobson has been on the Daniel Snyder beat for a number of years, has done a tremendous job. Boy, locally, this is bad news for the Eagles fans. I mean, he was a disaster, let's be honest, as an owner. Now you're going to have a guy who's financially well-heeled. I don't know, Josh Harris. I don't think he's been a great owner with the Sixers, but he's not been a terrible owner. He's going to be an improvement.
You would think whoever steps in there is going to be an improvement. Here's where the NFL owners, though, are going to be happy. One, they get rid of what's been a nightmare, a headache, a thorn in their side. But more importantly, look at the price of all of their organizations. If the Washington Commanders are going to go for $6.05 billion, everybody's happy about that from an ownership standpoint. So really, they get a win-win. And I don't think this is the end of any legal or any of those kinds of issues for Dan Snyder. He's still got to go through all that. Now, I know the Mary Jo White investigation from the NFL doesn't matter anymore. It'll come out because Roger Goodell said he promised it'll come out, and he'll look bad if he doesn't release the contents of that report. But that'll probably likely be, I would imagine at this point, after the deal is completed, everything has gone through. And, oh, by the way, here's Mary Jo White's complete investigation on Dan Snyder.
And by the way, Dan will be off the south of France on his yacht. I don't know if they have extradition from there. He's going to be fine with a $6 billion.
Yeah, he'll be good.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, I love the 0.05 billion, which equates to $50 million. It's 0.05, but it's 50 million. Can I get 0.05? Can somebody just throw it my way? I could find a way to use 50
I'll
million.
take
0.0005 right now.
Rob Maaddi here with his son, Birds 365. All right, we get to the draft. The Philadelphia Eagles with the 10th pick in the draft. Rob Maaddi will be getting who?
Trading down. I finished my first Rob Maaddi 1.0, I guess it's called.
Yeah, 1.0.
Got to do the first one first.
Yeah, that came out. Probably going to have revisions by next week's 2.0, and then another one by 3.0. But in my first mock, the first trade I had was the Eagles moving out of 10, dropping to 12, and taking the edge rusher out of Georgia, Nolan Smith. Now, I know I've seen him. I've seen Smith go anywhere in the top 10 and then all the way in the second round. He's all over the place, Nolan Smith. But I do feel like I also then had him at number 30, trading completely out of the first round. I think Howie Roseman, we all know this, is a guy who loves to make a deal. Yeah. And if there's an opportunity for him to be aggressive and move up, there's a guy they want, he'll do that. If there's an opportunity to move back, accumulate more assets, and still take somebody that they think, this is a team that's coming off a Super Bowl, and you can be aggressive and you can also look towards the future. And I think there's a lot of areas that they can go. Obviously, we look at the Eagles and how they love to build in the trenches, offensive line depth, defensive line depth. I'd be surprised if it's a position outside of those two areas in the first round with the first pick, wherever they go, whether it's at 10, trade down, or move up.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, people forget as early as last year how he came into that draft with 3 first-round picks. He didn't pick any of those spots. He moved on all of them. So he is going to move up. He might move down. He's going to do something. We know that's the one thing about Howie Roseman. But Rob, what is the likelihood that there's a splash on draft night? Right? We saw it last year with AJ Brown, one of the picks with Howie. Lamar Jackson, is OBJ mean Lamar's off the table? He's going to be in Baltimore. And then even there's these keep whispers. Everybody knows in this league how much Kyle Shanahan likes Kirk Cousins. The Vikings want to move in a different direction, it seems, with a younger quarterback. Is there any chance there's a big splash on draft night that we don't see coming?
Yeah, initially I thought you meant with the Eagles. I don't necessarily feel it'll be with them. Within the league, I think that there's still, well, the one splash that we know is pending that's going to happen at some point, and it's almost a foregone conclusion at this point, is Aaron Rodgers going to Jody's JTES Jets. That's just hasn't been done yet.
kind of that we know that.
Yeah, that's probably going to be.
Wait. Time out, New York. This is the Jets we're talking about. You can't know anything. If something can go awry and it's tied to the New York Jets, it's going to go awry. So I'm glad you guys have more confidence than I do that this thing's going to get done.
I have confidence.
Until it's done, it's not done if we're talking about the Jets.
You're not confident when Joe Douglas goes out there with Boomer Esiason and
then they pour French dressing all over somebody on a stage. What the hell was that all about? Ranch dressing or whatever the hell's taking a ranch dressing. Yeah, that's how Jet fans always feel.
Oh, man. But outside of that, John, I don't think there'd be a splash involving Lamar Jackson. I felt all along he's going to stay in Baltimore. Going out and recruiting Odell Beckham Jr. kind of solidifies that. I think he understands. He realizes, one, there's nobody knocking on his door making any offers. And if so, the Ravens are going to match it more than likely, unless it's something insane, but it's not coming. Nobody's making that deal. People keep insisting that the Colts are interested somehow in Lamar Jackson. I reported like 4 or 5 weeks ago that they are not interested. And if they were going to change their mind, I'm telling you, it's going to take a lot of convincing of the people at the highest levels to go after Lamar Jackson. But outside of that, could there be a splash? There always is. There always seems like there's something that's going to happen. That's it. That's an interesting one. The Kyle Shanahan, I've heard a little bit about that. And you look at the 49ers, though. In fact, I'm going to speak to Brock Purdy later this afternoon. And
that's Jody's guy.
Yeah.
Much underrated for what he accomplished this past year. Didn't get enough credit.
No, and I love when I spoke to him at the Super Bowl. Like you guys saw how 49ers fans and a lot of the players reacted to that game and how everything went down in the NFC Championship. Not Brock. He was like, we lost that game and we got to be better. This, that, and said all the right things. But he's their guy. I feel like he's their guy, and they traded all those assets for Trey Lance, and they're going to try and give him a shot, and it's going to be a legitimate competition once Brock is healthy. But he's further out.
Yeah, he's got a torn UCL.
Yeah, I can't imagine he'll be ready anytime before October. So you're looking at a Trey Lance, Brock Purdy team at some point.
So don't forget Sam Darnold, baby. Don't forget Sam Darnold.
Yeah.
They're collecting quarterbacks.
I'm sure there's still some unknown free agents out there that somebody will give a little bit of an opportunity to. There's the DeAndre Hopkins guys. Situation. That's something with DeAndre could happen on draft night. I always go into these things prepared. Like there's going to be a move at some point that we go, wow, where did that come from? And it won't be anything that we've talked about.
All right, Maaddi, I came up with this one last night. I was on CBS Sports Radio. Off the top of my head, hot take. Give me which side says no, because somebody asked me about Lamar Jackson. Between now and the draft, they come up with an agreement whereby he signs the 1-year tender, the number that it is, which, oh, by the way, is a bargain at 30 and change rather than 45 or 50, which he would get if there was legit bidding for him on the open market. But he gets the Ravens to waive any future franchise tag. Comes in, plays the 1 year, plays with Odell. They take a run. But both sides wink and nod. No, pretty much it's over and done with. He's going free agent, and you're getting no compensation for him next year. That kind of agreement, which side says no? Lamar's got to move off his I need Deshaun Watson's contract and plays for 1 year at undervalue, but the Ravens get him for a cheap 1 year, but know that that's it and it's over and done with, and maybe they can even address it in their draft this year. They take their future quarterback. Which side says no to signing the tender, but an agreement to not franchise him again?
In that scenario, it's the Ravens who got everything to lose, not Lamar. because Lamar essentially is playing. If they don't do that deal, what you just said, Jody, Lamar would be signing that tender, playing on the 1-year franchise, knowing that they can franchise him again next year, or let him go if they don't want to do anything.
Or Lamar, who's shown the fact that he walks to the beat of a different drummer, could sit out all year. Who's going to be the Ravens quarterback if Lamar sits out all year?
Who's leaving that much money on the table?
That's 30 plus. Yeah, 30 plus million. I think the Ravens look at that as we'd rather him playing and have the ability to franchise him one more time, like the Washington at the time Redskins did with Kirk Cousins. So in your scenario, I would say the Ravens would balk at that.
Okay.
Yeah. To me, the draft starts at number 3 with our old buddy Jonathan Gannon. Nobody knows. Monty Ossenford, new GM there, so they don't really have a history. They don't need a quarterback because they have Kyler Murray. I would think they want to move out, Rob. If somebody's going to move up to get Anthony Richardson ahead of Indianapolis, who do you think that might be?
Yeah, I agree with you that 1, 2 are going to be the 2 quarterbacks. I'm not buying some of the conversation that we're hearing that the Houston Texans aren't locked into a quarterback. I think that's nonsense. Who are they going to take outside of a quarterback? An edge rusher at number 2? Franchise quarterbacks win Super Bowls, not edge rushers. So I think that's just gamesmanship. That's nonsense. I think it's Stroud, young Stroud. I went with Stroud first. In my first mock draft, and we'll see going down. But then I think at 3, the Cardinals, like you said, are a team that are a trade down candidate. If somebody wants to leapfrog the Indianapolis Colts, who we know are going to be locked in on a QB, and I got Anthony Richardson going to that team. When I spoke to Jim Irsay, he wants a quarterback like he specifically singled out Jalen Hurts and called him Superman. He said that guy's a Superman in Philadelphia, and they need somebody like a Jalen Hurts, and who's got the ability to be someone like that, and that's an Anthony Richardson. So now who would want to leapfrog and get into 3? Some have the Tennessee Titans. I don't think so. I think Arizona is open to moving down. I think they'll let it be known that, hey, if you want a quarterback in this spot, that we're willing to talk. But Jonathan Gannon saw the importance of having a strong defensive line in Philadelphia. He knows how beneficial it is to have a team that's strong in the trenches, that's got a dominant pass rush, that can get 70 sacks like they had last year. They didn't get any of the Super Bowl.
I don't think anybody's getting 70 sacks. I'm going on record.
But he knows the importance of that. So I think they, in the end, I think they stay put and they take Will Anderson at number 3, and then the rest of the draft shakes out from there. I got Will Levis staying on the board all the way to Tennessee. No trade up, nothing. He's going to be right there for them, I feel.
I agree with you.
Number 11.
I think he might slide a little bit. And if he does get out of the top 10, I think the slide might even be bigger than you have it being. I think he could be that guy who goes a little bit later than we all think. But then again, he could go in the top 9. I think if he falls out of the top 9, I think he might have some issues at that point.
Yeah, I don't think it'd be 9 because 9 is the Bears, and the Bears aren't taking a quarterback, so it's either got to be top 8 or further down. And I know one team that would like to see him get to 10, and that's the Eagles, because then they can actually use that as, hey, open for bidding, 1 quarterback left who wants to move up.
Well, yeah, I said top 9. You're right on the Bears because the Eagles are 10. So if 4 quarterbacks go in that top 9, Rob, that's great news for the Eagles, because that means a great player is going to fall down to them. But I want to talk about trading up, because Howie's in a unique position. We all think he's going to trade down. I think it's far more likely he's going to trade down because he's got that big donut in the middle of the draft. No 4th, no 5th, no 6th right now. But, man, he's also bold at times. You saw the Carson Wentz draft. He went up from 13 to 8 to 2. And remember the context of that. He was coming off of exile. He should have played it safe, but he said, no, I'm going to be bold. I'm going to go get, and people can play revisionist history, but that helped him get a Super Bowl.
It's all that matters, right? You get the ring, and it worked.
So he typically, when you're the NFC champions, Rob, you're not in this position to get a difference-making player. Would he consider being bold and going up to get, whether it's Will Anderson, Tyree Wilson, Jalen Carter, somebody like that? Maybe it's only a couple spots. You maybe got to get ahead of Chicago. Would he consider moving up?
Yeah, I think he definitely would consider moving up, because when you look at 30, you're not talking about a top 15, a top 20 pick. You got the 30th pick, and you can dangle that as the additional piece, 10 and 30. But how far does 10 and 30 get you, right? Does 10 and 30 get you from 10 to – could it get you to 5 with Seattle? I don't think so. I don't think it gets you – I certainly don't think it gets you to 3 with Arizona. You might have to sweeten it, though. Can you do 10, 30 –
something else
next year's
one.
Next year's.
Yeah, you know, I'm not doing next year's one. Like, I'm not going to do 10-30 in next year's one to go to number 3 for Will Anderson, only because I feel there's enough depth in this draft at edge rush, right, where you can get someone who's a quality player by staying put or moving back. That's why I had him going back. You still get Nolan Smith, and I know some people feel he's a second rounder or he's at 20s, and I got him at 12, whatever it may be. But there are other, that Miles Murphy, you mentioned Tyree Wilson. There's a ton of edge rushers that I feel that they can get. So that's why I look like, who are you going to target? If it's Jalen Carter, that might be the guy, because he's a unique talent, an incredible talent. He's an interior lineman, but he's got those off-field issues. Would you want to trade up or hope that he falls back to you? I don't think he gets past Seattle. I think if Pete Carroll can get his hands on Jalen Carter, that's a nice fit for those guys. He's not going to be afraid of anyone with any off-the-field issues. So if Howie wanted Carter, he's going to have to, I think, then that would be the spot. He's going to have to move up. But you wouldn't want to go up to number 3. If you go to 3, you want Anderson. If you go to 5, I think it's Carter.
All right, Maaddi, man, I'm going to ask you a specific player, specific type question on the draft, and that is Bijan Robinson. Take need out of it. Take a team that needs its matchup with take all the teams off the board and just have the positions in the draft. Where, as per his talent level and what the NFL has done the last couple of years with running backs, where should he be drafted? What number in the first round should Bijan Robinson go, as per Rob Maaddi?
That's a great question, because if you just go exactly the way you asked it, to me, he's a top 10 talent, because he's a 3-down back. He's a guy who he's a playmaker on offense, where you got to score points in this league, and you can put the ball in his hands and he can get you those points any number of ways. The unfortunate thing is for Bijan Robinson is the NFL doesn't value running backs that way. They feel they can get running backs in the second round, third round as undrafted free agents. You see how they are so grossly underpaid in relation to their colleagues at other positions, at other skill positions like quarterback and wide receiver. And even they're getting paid now less than some of the tight ends. So I feel Bijan Robinson is a top 10 talent if you took position, money, everything out of it. There's a guy you want to get the ball in his hands and just watch him go. See what he can do. I got him sliding all the way to the Dallas Cowboys in the first round.
That would kill Eagles fans.
Yeah, they're not afraid to take a running back in the first round. They need to replace a running back who they took in the first round in Ezekiel Elliott, certainly much higher than 26 they are right now. But there's no way Jerry Jones sees him on the board and passes up at 26. They may even feel a little aggressive if he's slid all the way to the 20s and want to move into 20, 21, 22 and try and get him. So that's where I have Robinson going, based off what this NFL value system looks like right now. But top talent level, Jody, he's top 10 for sure.
Yeah. To tell you what's going on here, Rob, in your old stomping grounds, I considered renaming the show Bijan 365. That's how fired up Eagles fans are to get, because they always want the toy. There's only one stinking football. You got A.J. Brown, you got Devontae Smith. Jalen Hurts makes running backs better. But
They don't want him more
go.
than they want him more than Ricky Williams back in the day? It's not. There's no campaigns, are there, guys?
Not yet that I know of, but I don't delve into it. Any campaigns at WIP, Jody?
Oh, yeah. They're going to have the Sporty 40 going out to Kansas City. Or it could be the
40,
Filthy 40 to follow in the Dirty 30's footsteps.
Oh, okay.
To go out to see.
So there you go, Rob. Now I want to go.
By the way,
but
what university did Ricky Williams go to?
Texas, yeah.
Where did Bijan Robinson go to school?
Yeah.
Oh, Texas
Longhorn.
running back that the Eagle fans can lobby for.
Hook 'em horns.
Get ready for it, Maaddi.
All right.
Are you going out to Kansas City? You're going to be there for the draft, right?
I'll be there.
Oh, yeah, you're going to have to go up and sit with the Eagle fans who will be there to scream Bijan's name.
I may paint my face just to fit in.
Before you go to Kansas City, I want to talk about your new stomping grounds, and that's Tampa. Obviously, they're in a rebuilding mode. Another player, Eagles fans want, Devin White, who wants out of Tampa Bay, makes a ton of money and wants to get paid like the top linebacker in football. You know, you got to see him up close, Rob. He had that run in the playoffs. I mean, that thing was historic. That's one of the this is not hyperbole. That is one of the greatest runs for a defensive player in the modern era. He was phenomenal against Drew Brees in the playoffs. Then it was Aaron Rodgers in the NFC Championship game. He had like 15 tackles. Then in the Super Bowl, Patrick Mahomes, they blew out the Chiefs. He had an interception all over the field, sideline to sideline. And it's weird. People think he's a good player. He hasn't been a good player consistently from week to week. What have you seen about Devin White? And would the Eagles dare pay an all-ball linebacker $11.7 million, never mind the $20 million he wants on an extension?
Yeah, would the Eagles pay? No way. We know. I think we know the answer to that. That just not going to happen. Inconsistent is what I've seen, John, because I think it was such a incredible run, as you said, in that Super Bowl year, that the expectation level, now he was a top 5 pick, he was a 5th pick in the draft coming in. So the expectation level for Devin White was high already, and he showed it, and it resulted in helping them win a Super Bowl that season. But he hasn't played up to that potential. He hasn't played up to that level since. And it's kind of maddening because he's got that ability, he's got that talent. And sometimes you just don't see it. And there's been a lot of criticism of his, sometimes it's criticism of his lack of perception of lack of effort on the field. And maybe he'll argue that, hey, that there was a lot going on in a play, or I was on this side and something else happened there. But to me, he's that kind of guy where if he wants that kind of money, which he clearly does, and he wants to get in the 18s and the 20 million range, and you haven't had a consistent performance for the last 2 years, like the GM for the Bucs, Jason Light, just said this the other day. It's pretty simple. He's on the Buccaneers. We're moving forward with him. If he wants to get paid like that, go out there this season and prove it and have that year. He wants to get paid already. They want him to go out, give me one more prove it season. I will say this. He loves to ride horses. And considering where I just came from, up in the Philly area, all those suburbs and that area, like if he thinks that there's no horse farms or whatever, no, there is. Yeah, I could talk to him about that. He'll be quite comfortable in Philly. I just don't think Howie Roseman and the Eagles are going to be quite comfortable signing a paycheck like that to a linebacker.
Yeah, I think he'll work around the horses if he gets the paycheck. Not happening in Philly. All three of us agree on that one. All right, last one for me, Maaddi, man. Let's jump back over to the coaches. We've done the draft. We talked about everything. Eagles, 2 new coordinators this year. One elevated from the previous coaching staff, good relationship with the current quarterback, and one brought in from outside, but knowing full well has a lot of the same beliefs as the former coordinator who was here, is now the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals. Who's going to feel the wrath of Eagle fans more? Give me a little prediction here. You got to predict how it's going to go both on offense and defense. We know defensive fans are a little bit more outspoken. Jonathan Gannon got his ass kicked here for 2 years. Johnny and I can attest to that on our stream here on Birds 365. Who's going to hear it from the cheap seats more this upcoming year? Their new OC or their new DC?
It's easy to say that the new DC in Sean Desai, right? It's easy knowing what we know about the history of Eagles fans. I grew up in the Buddy Ryan era. I fell in love with football because of Buddy Ryan. And I think anyone who lived through that, right, has always wanted that aggressive, all out, go after them, go get them, punish the opposing team, punish the opposing quarterback. Like I feel for all the success that the Eagles had, and John, I know you've been a Jonathan Gannon supporter, right, over the past year or two. I think some of the 70 sacks last year, nobody, like you said, is going to get that, yet he was criticized, not aggressive enough, not doing this enough. Why? Is it because there's no body bags anymore?
Yeah, no body bags. That's the answer, Rob. Exactly right.
It's no body bags. It's no, they brought the house, we brought the pain kind of situation. So it's easy to say Sean Desai will get that criticism, but I will caution you this. I will look at, if there is any kind of struggle from Jalen Hurts, the offense early in the season, forget early in the season, forget game 2 or 3. If they come out and score 3 points in the first half of week 1, there's going to be, if it's a home game, there's probably going to be some boos as they run into that tunnel after a 3-point performance coming off 35
there will
in
be.
the Super Bowl. And then who's that fall on? Nick Sirianni's an offensive-minded head coach, so it's a combination. But you'll start hearing the talk of, is Brian Johnson ready for this job? Was he promoted too soon? Could he handle being an offensive coordinator? Which I think he can. I think he's the right fit. And I've been a Brian Johnson supporter since before he even came in. I thought that this is a guy who's well positioned to be a head coach at some point in the NFL. But I could see him taking the brunt of criticism if there's any kind of early season lack of chemistry on that offense and they're having trouble putting.
You're probably right, Rob. There's going to be some hiccups and he's going to hear some things. But ultimately, why I think Brian's got it easier, they got so much talent on offense. It'll start to shine through. They lost 5 starters on defense. They don't care about linebackers. They don't have safeties. Boy, I feel sorry for Sean Desai because remember, as you mentioned, 70 sacks, not good enough. Number 2 ranked defense, number 1 ranked passing defense, not good enough. What that poor guy is up against it, man.
Just roll out some of what Buddy used to do, and everybody will be happy. We don't have to win a playoff game, but they'll be happy with the defense.
Good point.
With the defense, if people are getting carried off the field, and you're bringing in third string, you're bringing in running backs to be the quarterback for opposing teams. Hey, they did that. They did that in the NFC Championship game almost.
Yeah.
Get those body bag quotes, get those House of Pain quotes. Sean Desai, he'll be just fine if he knows how to play the crowd. Rob Maaddi, you play it well, my friend, and you always play it great with us when you jump in. Have a good time in Kansas City. We'll get you on after the draft takes place. And feel free to go up into the crowd and hang out with the Filthy 40 that are going to be there screaming Bijan's name for the Eagles.
I can't wait, guys. Have a great weekend.
Thanks,
that is
Rob.
Rob Maaddi from the Associated Press here with us on Birds 365. All right, Johnny Mac, Jody Mac coming back. You know what we got to do? Put a bow on the show.